There we go. All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting installment of Living Lam Rim. This class isn't going to work if only the people who are interpreting have their cameras on. Okay. There you go. Okay. Y'all just coming by. I know. You're just rushing back. I understand. Okay. All right. All right. So we started last time excitingly to myself. I don't know if you guys got as excited as I got. Um, yeah, see, there we go, Anastasia. That's right. Just do a little rejoicing dance. Oh, nice. I didn't know you got moves. All right. So yeah, we started translating the emptiness chapter, and as I was saying last time, is there aren't as many resources for this chapter as I had for the last one. So it's kind of cool because then it kind of gets me into like total nerd world, right? And then I just start doing, a ton of research on things and I get lost in it. Then I realize that I'm like, yeah, I've been fighting this for years. I'm a translator and I like it and I like working by myself and I work in public, right? But it's like a by yourself kind of thing, somewhat. But I'm getting really excited about this chapter, and I over translated for today's class. Um, and what's interesting is we do have a really good resource, and the resource for this is a translation by Art Engel. And Art Engel and Geshe Michael were like, you know, they grew up together with Ken Rinpoche basically as students, right? And Geshe always talks about how he was so jealous of art and how Ken Rinpoche and Art would always talk in Tibetan, and Geshe was never allowed to speak in Tibetan with Ken Rinpoche. He had to speak in English, and he's like, "But I want to learn Tibetan." Little did he know that his teacher was helping him learn Tibetan by helping him speak English, right? And so, had a Art would translated the entire Gift of Liberation into English, and it's available in 3 volumes. And I was always kind of wondering, I'm like, well, why hasn't Geshe Michael translated it? My Art's translation is really good. And I just kind of thought of it like if you grew up with someone and you were completely jealous of them, right? Like the antidote to that would be to celebrate the work they did and not try to do it better, right? Or because that's what jealousy does, right? It forces you to like try to do things better, which is wrong thinking, right? But jealousy can be a powerful emotion too, right? It can also be a powerful tool to learn things up until the point where it's no longer powerful. Then you need to get rid of it. Like you have to let it go. So, but yeah, so Art translated it, and and Geshe gave 14 years commentary on directly from the Tibetan. And so there are lots of resources. One, there's Art's resources, like there's Art's translation. And then Geshe just finished Illumination of True Thought as well, which is a huge, just two, like, that's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for this one. It's the the draft translation is 1900 pages, right? It's it's and that doesn't include like the foreword, the table of contents, all these other things, right? There's still a lot that has to be done, and it still needs to be edited, right? And the book is called Gompa Rabso, so the illumination of the true thought, like the true meaning of emptiness. And so I'm using that as a foundation for the translation to learn, how does how does Geshe Michael translate these terms? How does he think through it? And his teachings on emptiness are quite profound, and from what I've learned. And so we're kind of using all of those things together, as a foundation to then translate it like with us. And I've asked, I'm not sure if we have all of them, but if you attend these classes, you will get your name in the book when it gets published. Okay. So don't let me forget you, right? Even if you didn't say a single word in the entire class, the fact that you were here means that you're a part of this translation project. And one of the things that I want to do with it is, like, the main idea behind translating this is that Pabonka Rinpoche gave this talk in 2000, or excuse me, 1921 or something like that. And then his student, Trijang Rinpoche, wrote everything down afterwards. Are you in Houston, Francisco? Yeah. Yeah, I can see the airport. All right. Um, so his student wrote down, took notes, and then compiled the notes into the book that we have, right? Which is 400 and some folios. And then it was this idea that I had, actually, it was like 2011, 2012, something like that. I was sitting in Geshe Michael's class and I was listening to the story and I was listening to his commentary. And I was like, we need to do this for Geshe Michael. Like, Geshe Michael's commentary on the Lam Rim. So Geshe Michael read Pabonka's Lam Rim out loud and then commented on it. And I had always thought, it's like, yeah, we need to do the same thing. And we have done the same thing. Namely, it's called 15 years of Lam Rim on the knowledge base. Right? We have 47 courses, right? Extensive courses. By the way, if you were in my previous class when I went off a little trip, we need those transcribed, right? And transcribed well, because not only would it make it available in, for us to search through, but it also will make it much easier for us to make translations of them, right? And so people in other languages can read what Geshe Michael said. So 47 courses, about 10 classes, let's say average 15 classes. Sometimes it was more or less. So we're looking at about 500 to 600 classes that he gave, right, on this. And that's a lot, right? And so I was like, well, we should do a class where I teach Geshe Michael's commentary. And then I had a different idea. And then I realized what the point of the Lam Rim is. The point of the Lam Rim is the commentary. And what I mean by that is, for example, when Geshe Michael taught Delam, which is the quick path or the path to bliss, depending how you translate it, which are the three first courses of the Diamond Way, which, by the way, if you go into Diamond Way, you need to have the Lam Rim first. Get it? Anyway, so when he taught Delam over three courses, the way that he taught the individual points of the Lam Rim is he used his own teacher as the example. Like, how did my teacher live out this particular point in the Lam Rim? How was he an embodiment or an example of it? And so I realized that um, I was like, I shouldn't give Geshe Michael's commentary on Geshe Michael's stories. I should give my commentary on my stories with my teacher and how my teacher was a living example of the Lam Rim, you see, and what he taught me to how to live it, right? And so Lam Rim is about living the teachings, right? So we can say living Lam Rim, whatever, you can call it what you want. I call it living, like embodying the teachings. And I think that's what it's really meant to be. And and art's translation is phenomenal. It's highly technical. There's incredible footnotes. You could spend a whole lifetime just studying it. And part of what I'd like to do is honor that translation and look at the ways in which we can make the language even more accessible to people, right? Using like the lineage of Geshe Michael translations are accessible and relevant, right? Completely, like, can you take the idea and explain it in normal words that normal people could understand? Like, leave out the Sanskrit, leave out the technical language as best as you can. And can normal people understand it? Like, there's a line coming up in the text about the three main causes to see emptiness directly. And they all relate to your teacher. And the third one, the word is solwandep in Tibetan, which means kind of like requesting supplications or requesting their blessings, right? And it's like, how many people walk down the street requesting or supplicating to their teachers, right? It's a word, I don't know, Sarah, I don't know if you use that word in North Carolina or not, but I sure as hell don't use that word. Well, maybe Sarah uses it, right? Mike in Philly, like, do you ever hear anyone, or in Baltimore, like, do you ever hear anyone using the word supplicate? You know, it's an odd word, and it's not a bad word. It's a highly technical word that just means requesting help and support. Please support me. Please help me. Right. And using words like guru for teacher versus, just a teacher or something like that. Exactly, Anastia. Solwandep. They forgot the Solwandep. There's a word in there. I can't remember how to spell it right now. So, yeah, there it is. Something like that. So, what does it mean to normal people, right? And how do you explain like this deep concept of emptiness and then explain, especially to a Western mind, you know, like there's a sort of a resistance or a kind of like to be called a guru is almost kind of a negative thing in the United States, for example. Like, oh, my guru, and everyone's like, all right, whatever, you know. It's like that thing where then people, as soon as someone rolls their eyes and you just meant, oh my God, this person who has changed my life, that I couldn't have become the person that I am without them. And you say the word, "Oh, my guru said," and then everyone's like, they roll their eyes, or they're just like, you're crazy, or they don't respect you, or they all of a sudden turn off to everything you have to say because you use the word guru and they don't understand what it means to you, right? And so I think part of this translation project is also, how do we say the same things in a way that people can hear it and be open to it? Like, can you sneak in karma and emptiness without calling it karma and emptiness? Can you can you hang out in San Luis Potosi, right? Is that how you pronounce that place that you live, Francisco, something like that? Something like that, right?
Yeah,
Where,
pretty well.
what's that?
You
No.
did pretty well, pretty well.
I did pretty well for a gringo, I know. Right. Where I don't think there's any Buddhists there. I think it's primarily Roman Catholic, right? And yet Francisco, like, people are asking him, like, what are you doing? And he's not like, oh, you got to meet my holy guru, right? I mean, I don't think you're doing that. Um, you know, how do you skillfully use language to help people where they are and who they are? And there's nothing wrong with non-Buddhists. I mean, it'd be stupid to say that or even think of it, right? It's like, how do you help people? Like Buddhism that doesn't help people isn't Buddhism. And if it turns people off, then it's not Buddhism. So why use Buddhist words if it's going to turn people away from it? Sorry, translators. I just taught ACI 13. My brain is all logical. You see. So that's the project here. Like the project is, how do we take these ideas, which are presented in a classical way in the Lam Rim, but was also presented to a public, non-technical Buddhist audience? In fact, not all the people at the talk were Buddhists, right? So, like, think of it not just as like Lam Rim and the steps on the path to total enlightenment, whatever that means. But think of it as like, this is a life I'm choosing to live. And the way that I choose to live my life will have impact on my future and the future of others. And what impact do you want? Right? Like, what impact do you want? And that's Lam Rim to me. That's what it is. Like, find the way to have the greatest impact. And maybe you have one student that you can use the word guru with, right? And that one person goes on to become an Arya and saves the world. Great. Okay, wonderful. That's possible, right? And the project that I want to focus on is, how do we reach normal people? And how do we become a living example for them that they want to learn this kind of thing? And it's not weird and it's not, uh, what's the word, Hina? It's not distant from them, right? But it's close and it's intimate. And then I think that's how it gets passed on. It gets passed on in those intimate relationships. I'm not talking romantic relationships. It can be, but it gets passed along in intimacy. So let's get started or continue. All right, we're in a section. The heck were we talking about? I don't even remember. All right, yeah, so we were talking about the way to cut samsara, like the way that we're going to achieve liberation. And we were in a discussion where there are certain insight practices that are helpful and ones that are not helpful. And if it doesn't do anything to cut the root of your suffering, if it doesn't do something to, like, as an antidote to the perpetual causes we put in place that create our suffering, then you shouldn't do it. Right. And that's what the whole point of this chapter is. You've learned meditation. Now you put the you put the telescope, or you put the microscope of your meditation on such a high object that has the power to cut all non-virtue out of your life, and then the ripening of all that non-virtue as well, and also has the power to bring about a possible total paradise for all beings. That sounds like a great idea. At least to me, it does. Whether it's a good idea or not, let's think about it. All right. Did I say that in the last sentence? Okay. All right, let's start. How about Marina? Can you read this next line?
Ekjena con me go shake.
No, 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 no.
Go.
Nope.
No.
No.
Ne.
No. Nushy.
Neše. Neše suck. Dok će tuma kompjan rim ki tipe liepa. Oh my God. Dok par gyurpa.
Nice. You didn't fall for it. Dogpar Gear. Gearwa. Okay. So if we want this to arise, meaning this is also the word for Karim, creation stage, the first stage of Tantra, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. It just happens to be the same word. Dekena, from having arisen, okay, meaning what? What happens when you choose a path of insight that will cut out that, cut that root of suffering, okay? So when we meditate, right, we talked about this in the last chapter, but I'll reinforce it. Once you get to a certain level of meditation, it just feels freaking good. It's just lovely. Your body feels good. Your mind feels good. In fact, it's, it's not orgasmically good, but it's good enough. All right. In that way, but what happens is if you get stuck there, you think you need to go to higher and higher and higher levels of meditation, more and more subtlety. And you think those things are the realizations. So even if you have this desire to pursue a path of insight, you don't need to go to those higher meditations, those concentration levels. We call them concentration levels. There are 8 of them: 4 for the form realm, 4 for the formless realm. We talk about them in what's the thing called? It's a dance, the lion's dance. Sorry. All right. You don't need to go to those places to be able to pursue a path of insight that can help you. All right. And so that's really the main message that Pabonka Rinpoche keeps hammering over and over again. Get a good meditation, get focused, but don't get stuck. Don't push it to a place of subtlety. Because once you overshoot the mark, then you're just going to go more and more subtle, but then you're just planting more seeds for a rebirth in the place that will just be samsaric. All right. And what I want to do here is, in my book, the Abhisamaya Alankara, there's a whole discussion, there's a whole section on debating these 8 levels and should we go after them or not. Right. And it makes sense because Maitreya is the one who developed the lion's dance meditation. So there's a whole discussion on its use and its lack of, or its when it's not useful. All right. So we're going to add a footnote there. It happens to be near the end of my book, so I might pre-translate that, not wait for 50 years. We'll see. All right. Next line here. Let's go to Ludmila. we're going to read this whole section here.
Nga os ngatole.
Knock
Choki
was
nak
knock knock
nako nako nak tole.
to. That's more about to.
To
Yes.
le. Choki tanpe che gowa.
Growa.
Sam growa.
Growa. It's almost like a D sound, like duh.
Drowa.
Yeah.
Sam tan ngo
Nushi.
shima
Nushi.
noshi.
Nice.
Noshi ma tokyan. Tukimikrat sa shintu.
Huh?
Ripatakni lokpa gi.
Nice.
Che
So sorry. You have 4 more words. You're right.
Chesumpare.
Good job. Okay, we actually saw a verse from this text about 3 weeks ago, and he quoted it before. And this is in the Tengyur. Where is it? Here it is. And I don't know much about this text. It's called what do I call it? The praise of what deserves praise. So this is in the Tengyur, and you can see down here, this is actually the beginning of the text. All right. And so what I was looking for is I was looking to see, first of all, is this the actual name of this text or not? All right, D to D. And here's the beginning of the sutra. All right. In the language of India, this is normally how these sutras start, or texts. This is called the Barna I don't do Sanskrit very well. Okay. Sorry to be totally disrespectful. I don't know how to read Tibetan versions of Sanskrit. Okay. That's what it's called. All right. In the language of Tibet, all right. Here's the full title here. Okay. Sangye chomden de la tupa nakpar upa nakpale tupa par minu parta. Okay. So he basically took part of the title, and shortened it up, right? So nakpar upa nakpa letu. All right. And you can see here that here's a shortening of it. Okay. It's close enough. All right. And then I went on after that, about 10 pages, 10 folios after that, and I found the text. I found the actual lines just to confirm, to make sure what Pabonka Rinpoche quoted, or Trisha Rinpoche quoted as being quoted by Pabonka Rinpoche, to make sure it was accurate. Because sometimes they're not. And so we just want to make sure it is. And I looked up and I used a line of text. That's why it's in red in my search, because it's not something you see very often. Like that word, those words together aren't seen very much. And so that's why I was able to find it pretty quickly. Anyway, so what does it say? In this text, all right, let me get my text up here. Okay. So those of you who follow the teachings, all right? I'm going to go line by line, then I'm going to turn back into English again, right? So those of you who follow the teachings, even if you don't achieve matob, these concentration levels above in the form and formless realm. As I'll talk about it. This is the word for demon. And this is like looking at you, like the eye of the demon or something like that. So even as that demon is looking at you, you're still going to be able to break free of the cycle of suffering. So let's make that a little bit nicer. So there's four, I think. I think there's four demons in samsara that help keep you there, maras, right? Four demons. And one of them is called the Lord of Death. And so I'm making a kind of a loose translation for those four demons, but they're all about keeping you in the cycle. So even as the Lord of Death stares down at you, those who follow the correct teachings, they will be able to break free of the cycle of suffering without reaching any of those high levels of concentration. All right. So basically, even as the Lord of Death is staring you down, waiting to devour you, and in your samsaricness of changingness and turning back into dust. All right. And then those of you who have done Vajrasattva practice will kind of know what this visualization of this like demon that's just like eating all of your negativities, right? But also causes death as well, right? So even as he stares you down, if you follow those teachings, anyone who goes after those teachings, the correct ones, you'll be able to break free of suffering. And you don't even need to go higher. So there's basically saying, look, don't waste your time. Don't, we have this thing about, and I see this happen so many times, where people strive to be the best. I got to be the best one. I got to be the person who stands out in front of everyone. I have to do the most work. I have to be the best volunteer. Right? How about that? I like that one. I've done that one. I'm better than all the other volunteers. I can do it better. I can solve everyone's problems. Right? And then you overshoot the mark. Like you try too hard. You're trying too hard, right? And I did this myself. Like Mike's like, I know this one. I'm like, I'm going to do it better because it makes me feel better about myself and my ego. Right? Like if I accomplish this, if I see emptiness directly, everyone will love me. Anastasia, look at half of you. You're all like, yeah, I've had this thought before. If I only work harder, right, I will be the one who realizes everything. And then my teacher will finally like me. Right? My teacher will finally, I think if someone ever, I heard this once from somebody else, and I'm going to use it at some point. Like if someone comes to me and is like, and has they've had some massive realization, which should be celebrated, right? I think my answer is going to be, now what? Good job. Now what? What are you going to do now? Right? Now you have a power. Go take care of someone else. Don't inflate your own ego. And you should be proud when you have realizations. I'm not saying that. All right. But what this is saying is like, don't overshoot the mark. You don't have to overdo it. Right? Just plant the seeds, and just calm, steady, dedicated service. You don't, guys, if you're losing your hair because you're stressed out because you're serving too much, there's a problem. or if you're going gray. Okay. Oh shit, Michael. You guys aren't watching the full screen. You're not watching all the people. That was a nice reveal. Someone took off their hat and was like, look, I have no hair. So, but yeah, it's like steady wins the race, right? And each step of the way, you need to evaluate what's next. You know, who can I help now? What's next? So what now? Okay, you saw emptiness directly. Excellent. You still have 9 other bodhisattva bhumis to get through. You're still not an Arya, right? Now keep on going. Like celebrate for a hot second, and then keep moving. And you should celebrate. All right. Next line. How about Natalia?
Dela, Zapmo, Tompa, Nitkidon, Tanla, Ole,
Beb. Tenlab. Yeah, Tenlam Beb.
and Lompep, Dok, Go, Go.
Kind of high tone, something like that. I'm not fluent entirely. All right. So to do this, indeed, to break free and achieve liberation, you need to establish, understand the meaning of the most profound submo of all subjects, Tompani. Okay. We need to understand the profoundness of this subject to get there. Let's find out what Maury has to say about this topic. How about who's next? Anastasia. Next line.
Dima tona tarpa tope tame chin. Gyalse ki chopa shenam kyang tenzin dan cheparndro.
Chepandro. Nice. Okay. All right. So if we don't realize this, if we have not realized emptiness, all right, there's no way we can achieve actual liberation. All right. Basically saying the same thing. If you don't realize emptiness, you can forget it. And then he says, more so without, let's see, where is it? Without realizing, even, let's see. Oh, okay. This is a great line here. So without the realizations associated with a deep understanding of emptiness, all right? Even all those other activities, okay, of the bodhisattvas, the children of the Buddhas, the Gelses. Okay, hold on to this, all right? This is a very deep point. If you don't have realizations associated with emptiness, even our activities as a bodhisattva will be infused with a mistaken belief. And what is that mistaken belief? And you will think that your bodhisattvic activities are self-existent. I'll say it again because it's incredibly important. If you don't understand emptiness, if you have not been built, even intellectually, then you're going to think that things that you do as a bodhisattva are somehow self-existently going to create good results of a bodhisattva. And if you think your activities at a bodhisattva are self-existent and they will self-existently create a self-existent Buddhahood and paradise, forget it. You've already lost. And we don't say that very often. Okay. And it doesn't mean that if you do things with a self-existent mind that you're not creating good karma. That's not what we're saying. You are creating good karma. And we're going to learn about why you're creating good karma in just a second. In fact, it's going to be... Did we get to it? Yeah, we'll get there today. All right. So let me say it one more time. If you don't understand anything about emptiness, your activities of a bodhisattva will be mired by the wrong view that those bodhisattva activities are self-existent. Did you think your vows are self-existent? Probably. If I do this good thing, I will get this good result. Probably you will get a somewhat good result, but then it's not going to last. You want things to last. You want those goodnesses to continue on. How can you take a single act and create a lifetime of goodness? Could you transform that into something that in a way perpetuates itself? Next line. Mr. Hoffman.
Chopa sungdang midempe jashin tabshe chokrewe gyewe sarnjo minipe tab jung chuki semdang sharab tongpa ni niyama drowala lop gute.
Nice. Okay. Just like a bird, shin, right? Just like a bird who cannot fly with only one wing, all right? We too will not be capable of traveling to total Buddhahood if one of our wings is flapping and the other one is absent. The two wings are tabshe, method and wisdom. So the wing of, if our wing of method, okay, is flapping really hard as a bodhisattva. We're trying really hard, right? But we don't have the wisdom of the wing of wisdom. We will not get anywhere. All right. So we must then educate ourselves completely in both of those wings, right? The first one are the aspirations and activities, the method of a bodhisattva, and the wisdom which perfectly realizes emptiness. All right. So this idea of two wings, right? You need both. You need your bodhisattvic wings. You got to go do good things. Got to be a good person, right? Plant good seeds, right? But you also need the wing of wisdom to be able to carry those seeds with you in a much more deep, profound, impactful, and lasting way. All right. And what this is saying is what the previous line was saying is that if your bodhisattva activities lack wisdom, your bodhisattva activities aren't bodhisattvic. Next, How about... Uh-oh, Sarah moved. Looks like you're next in the pictures. You want to try?
Gelame
Correct.
ne gu tope shiravni done
Uh-huh.
ne yung chub simla gom yekyang shipe
Sipe.
shipe
Sipe.
shipe
The R is kind of silence. Sipe.
oh sipe, thank you. Sewa chopar minu pe de cheer ten bell chopeta la be.
Nice. Good job. Where is this quote? Oh, I'm sorry, there's 4 more words, 5 more words.
Sorry, the lanso nanso and che chu pa tanging.
Yes. And what is this? The Lamso Nansum? Here we go. Sum means 3.
Oh, 3 principal paths.
Nice, good job. 3 principal paths. So this is a direct quote from who? Je Lama Pabong, or excuse me, Je Tsongkhapa, right? From the 3 principal paths. So if you do not possess the wisdom which realizes ultimate reality, but you have become, you do have something like renunciation and bodhicitta. All right. So if you have renunciation, let's say this a little bit nicer. Even if you do have renunciation, first principle path, and if you have bodhicitta, second principle path, but you don't have wisdom yet, and that wisdom which realizes ultimate reality, you will not be able, minupe, to cut the root of samsara. You will not be able to do it. So basically, Je Tsongkhapa is saying, look, guys, renunciation is great, bodhicitta is great, but if you don't have the wisdom part, you're just going to keep going round and round and round. So for that reason, you have to make great efforts, in in all the ways to realize dependence. And that's a really powerful thing. And it's something that gets presented here that doesn't make a lot of, it makes sense, but we have to think about it. He's basically saying you need the wisdom which realizes the ultimate reality. Therefore, you should study dependent origination. Anna's like, what? Right? So in order to realize emptiness in its ultimate form, you have to study how things become things. Dependent origination, which is interestingly tied together to the ACI 13 class that we're studying at the same time, right? Study dependence, understand how seeds ripen, then you'll understand emptiness. You'll understand how things become things, and then you'll understand how things are empty of any self-nature. Things are empty of coming from themselves. Things are empty of not coming from your seeds. So the interesting thing here is that when you have that first experience of seeing a seed open in your mind, you see the dependent arising. You see how the parts of things outside of you are not essentially the thing. And you see that perfectly for the first time in studying how that process works. then that becomes a material cause to flop you over into seeing emptiness directly, the absence of things coming from themselves. So you can do all these exercises in emptiness or, as Jason Kappa is suggesting, just study how you perceive things and how things become things, and then you'll see emptiness anyway. It's kind of a cool little topic here, and it gets deeper. All right, I just was looking up this quote to make sure it was quoted correctly, and it was. And I have a note here about, I want to find the bibliography entry that was translated from the latest edition by Geshe Michael, which was released about 6 months ago. And so I would like to use the same translation that he did of the three principal paths. So there's continuity between all of our translations. And if there's any differences, explain why. But I kind of I'm going to have a difficult time trying to explain why I would translate it differently than Geshe Michael. So it's probably easier just to cut and paste it and then put the bibliography entry. All right, next line. We're going to get through what I want to see. Okay, Laura. No, no puedes. Ahí, no. Okay. How about, who hasn't read yet? How about Anna? Can you read?
Yes, I can read. Ca yang ton pani la ton gyu ki te so
Som?
son zo pek yang da da
Dak?
dak dzin go ru ro ta bu vu wait
Tabudang. Yep.
tavutan se ve gom hai lo
Chompe.
chompei lo to cin tu che par sunkte.
Nice.
Thank you.
This is the verse I wanted to get to today, and we got plenty of time. Okay. So what's even more here? Shenyang. Okay. Even if the kyang here, okay, even if, which also can mean a but in this case, I'm using it as even if you have just the slightest amount of doubt, what are you doubting? The slightest amount of doubt that things are not self-existent. So even if you have just that thought of someone taught you the pen or the chew toy, and somehow it's like a little glitch in the matrix, and you're like, there's there's something not right. Like you have a little glitch, right? So even if you have that small, tiny bit of doubt that perhaps things are not themselves, just that small insight into the meaning of emptiness, all right? It's enough to tear apart the idea that things could be themselves, like you're shredding a piece of worn cloth. So imagine you have a t-shirt that you've had for 10 years. You know, you wore it all the time. You keep putting it in the washer and it gets really thin, right? This is not that old, right? It gets really thin. You can almost like see through it, right? Like you can see your skin through the t-shirt, right? But you love it and it's super soft, right? But like literally, if you went like this to it, you could rip it right away. Basically, what he's saying is that small doubt has the power to tear apart that idea that things are themselves, just like ripping an old piece of cloth. So all of this stuff that we just talked about, like, oh, your bodhisattvic activities, if they're not infused with wisdom, are they bodhisattvic activities? Right? He's saying, look, that's true. And just that one little idea planted in your mind when you saw someone teach the pen for the first time is enough to destroy it all. Is enough to destroy your tendency to see things incorrectly. That's all you need. Sure, you might need some lifetimes after that, but that's not what it's saying. Right? It might take some time, but just because you were introduced to that idea is enough to tear that idea apart. And then in another way of saying this, sung, which is actually which is an honorific part. Another way of saying this is that just this small idea can destroy the idea that things are themselves in the same way that a hailstorm, can destroy the crops. Wait, I just said it backwards. My brain stopped. I apologize. Yeah. A hailstorm will destroy the crops. So imagine a hailstorm, right? The little pieces of hail falling on a farm and hitting the crops. And then bit by bit, like one leaf goes, then the next leaf goes, and then this. And so it becomes bit by bit. And eventually the whole field of crops is destroyed. Right? And so like, it's just like that. If you understand a little bit about emptiness, that emptiness has such power that it'll grow and eventually destroy your tendency to see things incorrectly, like a hailstorm destroying a field of crops, or like you ripping your old t-shirt because it was incredibly easy to do. All right. And let's read this next line because it's literally the same thing. How about, who hasn't read? Oh, you're reading. Valerie, would you like to read this next short line? Oh, he disappeared into a field of crops. Ah, there he is.
Bži, Arga, Argai,
Yeah.
Pa, Las, Sot, Nam, Shung, Ngus, Cho, Dila,
Nice.
The, Tom, Zaba, Yank, Ni, Gyur,
Good.
The, Tom, Zo, Pat, Sem, Gus, Kön,
C. C. Yeah.
Pa, True, for, Good,
Che.
Share, Par, Your,
Nice. Good job. Che Sung Pare. Good job. So in the 400 verses, I don't know which 400 verses. I looked, I couldn't find it. Maybe someone else can find it for me. Someone of little virtue, sunam chunu, someone of little virtue can't even chew on a morsel of doubt about this topic. All right. Meaning emptiness. All right. Someone who has very little virtue can't even develop this kind of little bit of doubt. However, if by some chance they're able to muster up just a little bit of doubt, right? If they're able just to find one little bit of doubt, then the fabric of samsara will be torn to shreds. All right. So it's really cool, basically saying, look, someone who's not a good person can't even have doubt about emptiness, can't even have doubt about the pen and the chew toy. Because if you don't have enough virtue about it, you're not going to be able to understand the differences in perspective. That's what afflictions are. The more afflicted you are, the more right you are. The more afflicted you are, the more you believe that what is happening is correct. And it's the only way. Try to have an argument about politics with anybody, right? It's like that. They can't see pen and chew toy. There's no doubt going on, right? But if by some random chance they do have a little bit of doubt, a pen and a chew toy, the fabric of reality is ripped. Ta-da! Thank you. Let's see here. What day is it? It's Tuesday. Thank you, everybody. I don't put these in my notes. I forget where we are. All right. So we'll be back on Thursday with another installment of Living Lam Rim. Thank you all for joining. Your reading is all getting very good. Thank you for participating. And Anastasia, I would love, there's some people here, I can't read their names because I don't know Cyrillic. If you could help me know how to pronounce people's names so that maybe they can read, it might be nice. Next time. Thank you all very much for joining. Glad to have you here, and we'll see you on Thursday. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and let's say goodbye to each other. Hi, Tracy, is that your mom?
Yeah! And say, thank you, Tim. We love you.
All right, have a little hearts. We'll get on that. I'll take that. All right, thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you,
Thank
teacher.
you.
Please stay.
Thank you.
Дякую.
Please stay, please
Thank you,
stay.
Team Lam.
Bye.